Hi.
Hello. Oh my God, that's what your faces look like.
All right, you guys ready? 3, 2, 1. We are tWoTcast, episode 267.
Among the first to start, the tWoTcast was so smart to lovingly bash our favorite books. But that was long ago, and now they've grown the show, and now they got us in their hooks. Don't throw coins to these bastards, they need bars of gold at least. Someone please keep them afloat. Now let's listen as they once again ramble through a book. Let's get the fucking quote. One of them is Tom, but he is barely on. Sometimes he calls into the show. Another one is Jono. Is he their joker? Oh no. And Joe, is he the stupid one? Welcome to the tWoTcast. We will share our love for books and all our hate in every episode. We'll entertain you, make you laugh so hard you barely can stand up. That is the tWoTcast code.
You're listening to tWoTcast, the Wheel of Time reread podcast. Now covering Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, Book 2, The Great Hunt. I'm Jono. With me as always is Joe.
Oh, hey, Jono.
Joe, well done. Look at that.
Sorry, I was muted, so I was like, oh, wait, because my child's stomping along on top of me, and I was like, maybe I'll mute this. And then 5 seconds later, you're like, hey, Joe! And I I was like, oh, fuck. I don't know what to do.
Should have known that was coming.
Yeah, infrequently and
It's almost
violent.
like it's on the script.
Yeah, well, I've got to read that better. And frequently, but not always, but definitely now, Tom.
Study your math. Joe, you said a lot has changed on this script, so I jumped off the call and immediately went to look at it to see where you put in Omron Burgundy. I thought for sure.
A whale's vagina.
Was about to say something really stupid.
No, that would have been... I'll slip that in next time, Tom. Thank you for reminding me.
So we have a guest here tonight, which I know is shocking because you know what we had last week?
A guest. What did we have the week before that?
We had a guest host.
A guest. What did we have the week before that, though?
So our guest tonight is, of course, Steph Kingston. Tell us about yourself, Steph. Are you, in fact, a king or a stun?
Both. Porking the little stills. Yeah. Why you gotta pick?
I don't.
Yeah.
As Tom will tell you, I choose
baby.
Here we go. So welcome to the show, Steph.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here on number one Harry Potter fan cast.
We are the
number one Harry Potter fans in the world.
Yeah, and the Bible. That's the other one. You guys got a good fusion going
we're
on.
fans of the Bible, but only in the sense that it is the original ripoff of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
the first people that thought about ripping off Harry Potter were the people that wrote the Bible. I mean, that's an original idea all by itself.
It's very clever. It's very clever. It's like the first person who picked up fan fiction and said, you know what I'm going to jerk off to? My own writing. And that's how the Bible was born.
So beautiful. Really a monument to human ingenuity and
it really is. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. It's very beautiful literature.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Literature?
It's already so good.
Literature. I like it. I like where your head's at, which is apparently a vagina, which is a good spot. So that's all I've got for the intro.
You're good. You're good, Jono. You're doing well.
You did it. You introduced the show.
Yeah. Here we go.
Do you feel like your work is done here?
I feel like it. Do you want to hear something weird? Odds are, no offense, Tom, you've missed probably 34 episodes.
Wait, my answer was no. I don't want to hear something weird.
Joe, you and I have introduced at least 100 episodes together.
Sure.
That's the dumbest thing.
Together?
Well, each.
Oh, each. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh, yeah, because of how many times missed.
Yeah. Oriental setting.
I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. Again. So one of the dumbest things that I've got in my notes is, how many times am I going to flip out with how many episodes we've done this shit?
Every episode you do it like we've we're reconvening after 6 months of not doing the show, and you're like surprised at the number, or like somehow the number's grown more than just one per week.
If you get to
say,
it's kind of astounding
every time, so it's always getting bigger. I guess it's appropriate.
Like if it was just the 300s or like the 100 marks, I'd be like, okay, yeah, fair enough, you're proud.
I'll even
you're
give
like
you
267. That's a lot.
Yeah, I'll give you 269 and 275, and then you're not allowed to do any until 300.
All right, can you do me a favor, Tom? Can you not introduce at least the next episode so I can get or Joe? So instead of it being every 3 episodes, I get 2.
I honestly don't know who's next. Let's see here.
Well, it doesn't matter. Either way, I know we add 3, so I'm not till 270.
Looks like
it's
Tom.
It's a 1 and 2 choice.
Looks like Tom is 269. Sorry, Jono. This doesn't
I guess
time out that way.
I guess we'll see how much. I guess we'll see how much you want it.
Looks like
eventually you'll get to 420. So that's the next milestone.
That'll happen eventually. Yeah. We're good. We're at a pretty good clip now, Steph.
Well, there's a few more Home Alone movies too, so.
I mean, we got that reboot coming, and hopefully it's out in December.
Oh, yes.
Did you see that Jojo Rabbit, Steph? That kid's adorable.
No, I have been wanting to see it. It is on a streaming service here, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But it looks incredible, and everybody who talks about it says it's great.
Well, it's a fantastic movie, but the kid that's cast in the new Home Alone reboot is in that movie, and not as the main character. He's like a side character. But
yeah, Macaulay Culkin needs to be the main character.
So funny.
I kind of wish
that his kid's mouth is fantastic.
I kind of wish that Macaulay Culkin had just like filmed a new Home Alone like in his house during quarantine.
Could have just been like a shitty iPhone movie. It would have been fantastic. That would have been great.
Actually, if they haven't already done the script, Home Alone 18 quarantine was not a terrible theme for a Home Alone movie.
Yeah, by definition, you probably should be Home Alone.
Maybe he has to be in isolation for 2 weeks and nobody can be with him.
Oh, they are gonna run out of ways to get him home alone.
That's brilliant. Yeah, the COVID thing works immediately.
Well, they should have started filming it a while ago.
Of information there.
He's separated from his parents and he's at home, and then he can't.
Or they can't come back because they got on the plane to Paris.
Yeah,
they have to quarantine for 2 weeks before they can even get their kid back.
Because they went to spring break.
Yeah.
Yes. All of this
wild.
is good.
How's the drinking going? You sound pretty articulate.
Woke lesbian moms.
Oh, yeah. And it's still Catherine O'Hara for one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Emmy award-winning Catherine O'Hara.
Those are really exciting Emmys. I like that suite for that show. It's a great show.
It is a great show. It is of my people. You're welcome.
I got very stressed out when 3 of the main cast won, and I was like, man, if Alexis doesn't win, that's going to be embarrassing.
Wait, what show are you talking about?
Schitt's Creek.
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha.
I mean, she is the only one who you can't name the actress off the top of your head, to be fair.
Oh, yeah, you're really right. I'm going to have to remedy that.
To be fair, she has a very milquetoast name. Annie Murphy.
Milk.
It's like white person name.
White.
Milquetoast.
So what would that be? Is that heavy cream? Like half and half?
Yeah,
what happens
heavy whipping cream.
Yeah.
Heavy whipping cream. Yeah.
It's keto coffee filler.
Keto. That's usually just cum in my house.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Actually, there's probably too many calories in cum.
I'll be honest. Don't tell my wife. Yeah, sorry, you could. Yeah.
So friends and I, we were having a conversation a little while about whether you could swallow if you were on a keto diet or not. Because we were talking about the show Naked and Afraid. And we were like, has anybody ever given a blowjob just to get the caloric value of the semen to keep them going?
I mean, that's not bad. It's not a bad idea.
Right? But then after probably like a week out, the giver is probably just shooting dust. So
not only that, like I imagine
it depends.
Sour shit by the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that'd be just
left it on like the tropical
that's
island.
The part that I think would happen before the guy taps out. I think it's the first gross part.
Before he taps out, like, I need you now.
Right.
Only one way to find out.
Maybe she's like, this is the closest thing to meat I'm going to eat in 21 days, so I'm in.
Oh, Jesus. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
But maybe on day 18, I'd be afraid she might actually try to eat my dick. Like, literally.
That has to happen, right?
Steph, how long have we known each other? Through the internets.
A while. I started listening to you guys it would have been back in 2012 because I was rereading the series in prep for the last book. And I was living in South Korea at the time. And so I didn't really have any Wheel of Time friends to talk about. And I'd also just gotten into podcasts. So I remember I had to manually download each of your podcasts because for some reason iTunes wasn't working for me. Anyways, so I had to manually download every episode of your podcast, put it onto my iPod Nano, and listen to them like that.
Oh, the Nano.
I wasn't on Twitter at the time, so I don't think we probably started like chatting and talking until maybe a year or two later. And then I got very on Twitter in about 2014.
I feel like it's basically you, and I would say like I could probably name like 5 other people, you know, like a larger, slightly larger than a handful of people that I'm like, they're from the fucking beginning.
Yeah, and they must be out there, but they're just not.
Oh, I'm sure.
As capital O online as the rest of us.
I feel like we probably
absolutely
a lot of people.
Very possible.
Yeah. What I'm hearing.
There's also a lot of people that might not stick around for that long.
Fair.
I'm hearing this must be a dream come true, though.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I have been super excited. No, like really, I have been very excited about this. So something I really don't have a lot of Wheel of Time friends in my like in-person life at all. This is actually probably only going to be the second out loud conversation about the Wheel of Time that I've ever had in my entire life. And I have been reading these books for about 20 years. So it's my pronunciations are going to be whack. I actually probably picked up most of my pronunciations from you guys. Because I think you guys are the people who I heard saying them out loud the most.
So let's talk.
I love that that's a thing.
Yeah, it's true though. Like I'm
wrong.
I swear, I bet you I'm not the only one. Listeners, tweet at me if you also picked your Wheel of Time pronunciations from these guys.
That seems so wrong. So let's talk.
It's fucked up, right?
Bizarre origin stories. So one of the reasons this podcast exists is because I started working at a pizza restaurant where Joe was the fucking manager in literally 2003.
Wow.
Back in the ancient days.
I remember like he was sitting in the back reading a book and he was my boss and I was like, holy shit, I know that logo, like Wheel of Time, right? And he was rereading because good man. And instantly struck up. And weirdly, he wasn't the only person there that was reading the Wheel of Time at the time.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I feel like, you know, maybe you need to get out there more. You need to go out to more pizza.
Well, so
maybe get a job as a server.
That was when Crossroads of Twilight came out, right?
Yeah,
so
that's correct.
So people were rereading.
Is Crossroads of Twilight 2003?
I think so. I think I looked up because that Crossroads was my first book that I bought like off the shelf.
Yeah.
Because I was 12. I started reading these books when I was 11, and so by the time I was 12, I was at Winter's Heart, and I was like, I didn't realize the series wasn't over. So I was like, this seems like a lot to go, and I'm like halfway through Winter's Heart. I'm like, how is this? This has got to wrap up. And I was very disappointed when I got to the end of that book.
Your tiny child brain was just shattered.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. 2003.
Yeah. So that was
fucking crazy.
That was possibly the last, maybe only time, definitely the last time that Robert Jordan did a book tour that came to where I lived, which was Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And so I was 13 or so, and I got to meet RJ. And I was so nervous that I couldn't say a damn thing. And
you beat all of us.
Like
he never came again. So,
I met him at a book signing.
Did you?
Yeah, Tom met him.
Yes.
Oh, well, fuck you, Tom. We never said that before.
We almost met. Me and Tom almost went to see him again at Dragon Con one year, Jono.
Yeah,
I don't remember why. I don't remember why we didn't go, aside from the line was really long. But Tom was like, do you want to wait in line for this? Or we went down specifically to do that. And then he was like, well, I've met him before. Do you care? And I was like, I mean, I'm not going to, it's not worth this, right? You know, kind of thing. And he's like, all right, let's go over here and get drunk. So we like left. And then I was like, and now I'm just like, sort of regret that.
Yeah.
I mean, how could we know at the time that our time with him was going to be so limited, right?
Yeah. I mean, you didn't, you know. And also, it wasn't like a normal book signing. It was like a huge panel. And it was like, you're not going to get to like really talk to him or meet him, so to speak. It's just going to be like,
What year was
hi,
that?
sir, I have a question. I have no
Yeah, I was like, what would you like written in your book? Goodbye.
Yeah.
So probably like 04, 05. 04.
It might have been way back in the day, Jono, before you were going. Like 97,
Oh, yeah.
like 98, kind of thing. I don't know.
Oh, just because what's funny is the fact that we actually had a show at DragonCon, 15 years later. Yeah. Which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that's just kind of like, why the fuck?
We know
would anyone
Jen
remember
runs the high fantasy panel again, or the
Yeah,
what the
she
fuck do they
does.
call this? Track.
High fantasy track. Yeah.
I mean, we could, we know Jen. We could just be like,
you guys
hey, we
could
want
go
to do it.
back and
You should,
tell, like 2010, you guys that you would have once, at some point, eventually be like main faces in the Wheel of Time fandom. Like, what would you have even thought?
I have no idea.
Proof that the world.
Honestly, I don't think that would have. I don't even think of myself that way. That's funny that that's why I was laughing when you even said that. But like the other stuff that's come from it, like us knowing Harriet and Alan and Maria, and like they let me sell artwork and like just all kinds of shit has come from this podcast. That's not
you have art,
an incredibly successful charity stream that brought in tons of people and raised thousands of dollars. Like that's not nothing.
Yeah, that's
impressive.
That's called the art of irony too, considering how much we bully the shit out of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's in real life, Jono.
Yeah, that's true. We don't do it online. We do it.
Yeah.
In person.
Do it in person.
There's no cyber about it.
Yeah. It's like that's just the most just kind of like what like when that happens you're just kind of like what the fuck has happened in this world. It makes me very disappointed. Yeah, just in general.
It's hard to I guess the podcast is quantifiable in terms of like how many people we have listened to the show and everything, and I mean yes it has grown, but I guess I still don't think of it like that, but it's the other stuff that's come from it, that
that's
it's
probably
like
a good way to go about it. You don't want to get it.
There's amazing like relationships we have now and stuff like that. Like when we asked Harriet to be on the show on the live podcast-a-thon thing, she was like, okay. And then we were like, I was like, and the fact that she showed up and she was sitting like this in her chair and just drinking vodka and just like, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? You're crazy. I love it. It's like, she just like, who gives a shit? It's tWoTcast. We're going to have fun and get drunk. And I'm like, I fucking love that. I love that she's, you know what I mean? That's the part that you're like, fuck, that's crazy. Like that's when you look back, like those are the things that get you.
That's what you realize.
And that's what you realize.
You guys have a strong brand.
I don't. That's true.
We have a strong bond.
You don't want to talk about that here.
All right. Well, I guess
just talk about the actual book.
Sure.
So this is our episode covering The Great Hunt, written by I think Robert Jordan. I think is the guy's name. We'll be doing chapters 22 through 24. Which I know, math whizzes say, well, that's 2, but actually that's 3 chapters. How about that? That's fascinating, isn't it? Should we talk about that? That it looks like it should be 2, but it's really 3? Let's go to chapter 22. This is called Twatchers.
Twatchers on Toman's head, I think it's referring to.
Steph, would you like to give a...
Hold on a second. You didn't say spoiler warning. You just go right past it. It's literally written in bold print now because we walk right by it in our intros.
Well, again, you expect me to be looking at this and reading. I don't know how to read. Now what? Anyway, so spoiler warning. We've probably spent the entire book about 18,000 times by now.
Yes,
but
I mean, you just have to assume someone's listening to this for the first time.
That's a hard
and therefore probably by now have stopped listening to it, so they're probably fine. But
people are picking up these books so much now with the show running. Like you see every day, like I just started reading The Wheel of Time.
Yeah, like what podcast should I listen to? And they're like, not those guys.
Nope. White Tower, y'all.
I'm 14. What should I
graveyard
by definition,
Wheel of Time podcasts.
Yeah. Actually,
that one really hit home.
There was actually a ruling at one point that Joe's voice couldn't be heard by girls under 13, but it lifted.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, through a lot of litigation, it was walked back to 18.
This
Anyway,
is the spoiler warning.
Well, yeah.
Spoiler warning. We talk about everything that's ever happened in the books.
And
a lot of stuff that maybe didn't.
Like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So chapter 22, Watchers, is a Marine chapter. Steph, you want to give us your drunken cover
Yes.
recap?
I wrote
Like real
3
quick, before we
pages
go
of
any further,
notes for all
Steph,
these chapters.
what if you had a drink, Steph?
Well, this glass of wine was about up to here with rosé when we started.
Oh.
It's already down about to a
Good.
third, and then I had
That's
a
a
bunch
good
of
clip.
booze
You need
before
to keep that up.
I tweeted these guys like last week. I was like, I'm off on Tuesday, so I'm gonna be day drunk. And yeah, I've been drinking since about 9 a.m. Just pouring Baileys in my coffee.
Incredible.
So I want to throw out a quick apology to the listeners, real quick. I am a terrible overtalker. So I'm just gonna apologize for that right away. I'm a terrible overtalker in real life when I'm sober, let alone when we're podcasting and I'm about 3 drinks in. More to come.
Yes.
So yeah, sorry about that. I'm gonna be yelling. So anyways, Watchers, Moraine and Lan go visit Vandy and Adelise. Moraine asks if Lan is chafing, and then they kill a Draghar that is warded by the block Aja.
All right.
There you go.
That was like a Tom style.
Yeah,
But I
I was
love
practicing.
I'll be honest, I love this. Hey, you got a chafing reference in there. That's nice. That's all I've got. Chafing references. I'm happy.
It's the bulk of the chapter. I mean, this is an incredible chapter because
Did you say Shafter? It's the book of the Shafter?
Yeah, Shafter.
Yeah.
Because this is one of, I think, only 2 Moraine POVs in the entire series. And the other one is where she's jumping through the doorway.
Oh, well, she's already had one, so that's not true.
So 3.
And in
there's the...
At the end of book
I guess she
1.
has a couple before it. Okay. So
She's got one in
there's
book
like 4 or
4.
5.
I mean, she only has so many, though.
And this
You're
is
not
like
way off.
Yeah, this one is probably like you get the most into her head, I would say, in terms of like what she is thinking about and how she is relating to what's happening and the people around her.
I would say it's revealing into her like personality in terms of like she's currently worried about Lan, so to speak. So like it's kind of more. It's not that you get more into her head than the other POVs. It's just that there's more at stake with what's going on, I think, with her like worldview.
It's very similar to the one that actually does happen in book 4 when Rand has has Kalendor. But I love the fact that like realistically, like Steph was 100% correct. Like, hey, this is one of the very few, and our instant response was, no, you're off by 2.
That's why I was
At least.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I was kind of laughing. I was like, she's not right on the number, but at the same time, it's not much more than 2.
No,
it's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4, right?
Yeah,
there's
who knows what the
end
number
of the
is?
Eye of
It's
the
not
World.
much. Yeah.
There's the End of the Eye of the World. There's this one. There's Doorway, and then there's...
Well, there was one earlier in this book. I just don't remember. It wasn't even a full
Going
chapter,
to see Swan.
Yeah. Or maybe it was a full chapter. I don't remember.
Hey, what about that? What about that New Spring book? There's a lot in there.
News. Spring.
Get your shit together, Steph. I mean, like, there's like a whole fucking book.
This chapter is basically a summation of what eventually happens in New Spring.
Yeah,
it's kind of
it's them talking about how they met and their backstory.
What would be New Spring?
Yeah.
So why did he even write that book?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I don't know. We already got it.
Waste of time.
It's already done.
So to me, this chapter, I think I both love it and I find it kind of weird almost. Like it seems almost out of place for something that Moraine would do, because she seems like either she's done this a number of times and maybe not just to these 2 sisters but others, or it's like her first time really ducking out of action, because I feel like she doesn't know what the fuck she's looking at. She doesn't know what she's looking for. And the fact that it just seems kind of odd for her to just bolt the fuck away and go to some people who know history, hoping that there would be something there. Like, just seems
knowing who they are, I'm surprised she hasn't done this to them already.
Yeah. Like, A, Joe, you're right. And B, Steph, you're right. You're almost like maybe it was kind of foreordained, like foretold. You know how close they are to Shinar.
Yeah.
Is that actually showing up in the phone?
No.
Hooray for the map being behind.
Let's be real. We all know what that map looks like.
It's a giant vagina. It's not the map. I just got
Just Tarvalon.
Yeah.
Just Tarvalon.
I should just get that.
I think I wish Lan had just said out loud that she was handling Rand incorrectly. You know, like when she's asking him specifically, like why he taught Rand certain things right before they went in to talk to the Amerlin, and he's kind of like, I don't know, and he doesn't really have a real answer, and then he's like, I don't know, maybe it's because he's Targaryen. Who the fuck? I don't know, you know, kind of thing. And she's like, kind of trying to get to the bottom of like what is bothering him recently.
Like she thinks it's because
I think writing it off on the Targaryen thing is kind of bullshit, sort of.
Like she thinks it's because he's in love with Nynaeve, and so
which it is.
It is partially, but also I think it's like he absolutely understands what it's like to be in a fraction of Rand's shoes, and to be up against like what did he say, that a wolfhound needs to meet its first wolf?
He gets close to saying that, like the right thing, but he gets close to saying it by saying like, I just think someone should be like, if he's not seen as like a danger, then you're gonna get him killed, kind of thing. But what he should have said is, you're doing this wrong. You could do this better. Like there's a way of getting him to where you need him to be and still accomplish your goals without doing what you're currently doing to him. And that's why I did that. Like he doesn't explain why he did it. He just says like, this is what you're doing, and I had to stop that from happening, kind of thing. But he doesn't like, he would just take it at one step forward.
No,
I know.
Like,
and that's the problem.
It is so interesting to me. Like Lan is so not subservient, but like he defers to her. Like he takes that like Aes Sedai warder roles very seriously, and he even actually kind of jokes about it in this episode where he says like, honor to serve, Aes Sedai. But he's also totally doing that. So it's kind of interesting. Like
I think he takes his oaths very seriously. I think he's a very honorable man.
And I think later books, Lan like would absolutely call him out or call her out on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But right now, he's still like,
thanks a lot, Steph. You were supposed to say spoiler.
God, fuck. I forgot to mention, I can't believe people didn't know there was later books. Y'all know the series ends at Winter's Heart.
Wait, there's more books?
Yeah.
No,
are we going to keep doing this podcast?
Yeah,
there's
a way after book 9, it's it. We're done.
All right. Words of Radiance.
So, I mean, obviously they discussed handing the bond off.
Yeah, so here's a question for you. We know that the Aes Sedai obviously have an opinion on what the fuck they should do with the Dragon Reborn. We also know that, you know, people who are a little more well-educated, well, maybe we don't know this, but there's an assumption that people who are a little more well-educated understand that the prophecy of the dragon aren't necessarily the Dragon Reborn is going to murder the world versus the Dragon Reborn is a harbinger of some shit, and that he is actually our savior, wherein things still go down. What do you think that Lan, because we were kind of talking about the fact that maybe Lan doesn't appreciate the way that the Aes Sedai have handled Rand. Like, is he thinking about that because Rand's a person? But what about the idea that maybe he's got thoughts in his head of, holy shit, lady, like, you know, no offense, best friend and or, you know, mistress,
slave owner,
a little
co-worker,
we'll call it co-worker, manager, that, you know, maybe you should solicit this guy's opinion and try to be on his side and understand his point of view, because he's not here to just be a dumb fuck,
right?
You know, worker. Like,
and she's never said it out loud, but like Swan literally called him a tool. Like not in the putting you down way, but in like, well, an anchor isn't bad because it does its job, you know, kind of thing. And I'm just like, he's a fucking human being.
Yeah. I think Lan is in this place where he's just like, wow, you guys picked the worst words to talk to and about this kid. Because he knows what it's like to be an angry 19-year-old kid with a huge burden. And I mean,
that's like, a good fucking point. His perspective is interesting specifically.
Yeah. Like, we reference New Spring a lot in this chapter, and when we read New Spring, obviously we like, Lan is a very different character in New Spring than he is now. Like, he is very angry, and you know, Moraine references it here too, that he was much more fierce when she met him, and she was kind of afraid of him. So I think he understands that anger and that frustration and fierceness that Rand has, and he's like, if this worked out for me because I'm me, it may not work out for Rand because he is the bringer, the harbinger
of death.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a common theme that we run into in the books about how the dragon is the breaker of all bonds, and probably that, like, I think that first bond we see start to like fray and broken is that bond between Lan and Moiraine, where he's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, I thought point. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Maybe he's concerned that if Moiraine messes it up, the world's going to end before he gets a chance to have sex with Nynaeve.
Call him B.
It all just comes back down to Nynaeve.
I mean, that's a legitimate concern.
I think there's a fascinating question though about, like, what about, like, these people makes them think that, like, if you corral Rand the right way, he's just gonna do it. Like, he's just gonna be the Dragon Reborn, versus the idea that if you let Rand do what he wants to do, he will actually be the man of destiny because he's a fucking human being. Like, what makes you think that if you just hold him in a cage, like, it's, we see this over and over and over with a lot of,
well, especially with a lot of
like 3,000 years of that. Like, what is the phrase Moiraine uses later, that we've made the world dance on our strings for 3,000 years, and it's a hard habit to break. Like, I mean, they really have, like,
but this is the time to fucking break it.
Or they've been this huge force in the world, and they've very rarely run up against something that they couldn't control. Like, Arthur Hawke maybe being the last one.
Yeah.
Also, I have a huge point that I want to say here. Like, this is kind of going back to a conversation we had, like, at one of the other podcasts we had recently. But I was like, I think I was just ranting about, like, how the fuck is it just the two of them? Oh, it's Siuan and Moiraine. Like, how is it just the two of them? Like, how have they not gotten, like, a single other Aes Sedai on their side through, like, careful planning and manipulation to find people in lies or whatever the fuck, or whatever you need to do? You've had 20 fucking years. And in one conversation with Vandine, or wherever the fuck brings her the tea later, I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, Vandine.
But, like, it's Vandine, right? Anyway, but in one conversation with her, she gets, like, pretty close to her saying, like, well, I don't think we should gentle him even if we find him. I'm not a red, I'm a green, kind of thing. And, like, just very upfront goes, like, I'd basically be on your side if you just told me what the fuck was going on. But she doesn't say that, of course. But, like, that's one fucking conversation. Fast forward a year of, like, slowly probing this person, you could probably get her to be like, absolutely, let's find the Dragon Reborn, and I'm on your side, I'm 100%, blah, 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 blah. It's like, how the fuck is it just Moiraine and Siuan?
Well, technically, in New Spring, a bunch of people who may be sympathetic to that idea were killed by the Black Ajah.
I think they're like slightly not traumatized, but like they are really scared of the Black Ajah. And then also, I think they sort of have gotten to this point where, like, it's the very Aes Sedai thing of, like, you don't tell secrets, and it's very, like, I don't know, just like insular in a way. And I think they just they can only trust each other, and they barely even, like, tell each other the whole story.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Jordan doesn't always drive home in a really direct way, like how fucked up the Aes Sedai have come since the Age of Legends in terms of, like, being this weird, like, secret society almost. Like,
I think it's mostly apparent later on what it means in the tower.
Yeah, you see, like, Elida becomes a really, like, obvious example, but even down to the bits where, like, it's so crazy when you have, like, all the Aes Sedai, the different Ajahs coming together to hunt the Black Ajah, and, like, how spooked and scared and weird they are about that. Like, it just, you don't, like, the Aes Sedai are just so used to being aloof and secretive and political and manipulative of not just other people but themselves, and it's, like, very toxic work environment. So, like, I'm not crazy surprised that they don't tell anybody else. And the fucked up thing is, like, I think if they were going to tell anybody, it would have been Shiriam, which was a bad idea.
Why Shiriam?
Because they're friends with Shiriam. Like, she's like,
and then Babe.
Shiriam and Burrell are, like, two of their like friends in at least in New Spring.
Okay, that makes. I thought you were talking about just Aes Sedai in general, kind of like.
No, like I think if they were going to like put feelers out to anybody, like Shiriam probably would have been one of them, and that would have ended catastrophe.
Yeah, which could have resulted in them all being murdered in their sleep. So you're right.
It's sort of like a weird, like after the fact, almost like a retcon justification, and maybe it just seems that like Jordan obviously knew the whole time.
I feel like if you take the proper steps to like, instead of just going like, oh, I kind of like Shiriam, we've been friends for a while, like. That's an emotional concept. Like if you just take logical steps to figure out and just treat everyone as an enemy until you can prove otherwise.
Well, and you guys talked
even given
about
that
like, trying to catch
narrow field of view, like you can get 5 other people on your team after 20 years.
Yeah. That's a task unto itself, and Moiraine's not there to help Swan with it because she's out in the world. And Swan can't really undertake that task by herself because she's the Maryland seat. So I don't really know how you would go about that.
It's a very good question.
It takes them way too fucking long to realize that the Black Aja must be able to lie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that concept
that would have came up in the last 3,000 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like,
that would make the books a lot less interesting, though.
But then also, like, that...
It's true. Everything I'm talking about would ruin tension left and right. So I completely
but you can also make an argument for that, like, on that sort of, like, Aes Sedai rigidity and, like, this, like... They're very set in their ways, right? And so the idea that somebody could break the 3 oaths is like so crazy and out of left field to them that they haven't they barely even consider the idea of the Black Aja in the first place.
Of Aes Sedai, and we know that they all take that because we all watch it. So I mean, it's a good point. Like you know that at least on the first moment, none of them can lie. None of them can do that.
So you have like Moiraine and Swan knew that people were being murdered in the tower 20 years ago. Like you'd think that they would maybe.
That's a good reason not to trust anybody.
Yeah.
But if they'd figured it out that Black Aja could lie a long time ago, then in the first book somebody would have been like, "Is the Black Aja real?" And they're like, "No, we got rid of them 1,000 years ago."
Yeah. I guess it basically
that's one enemy down.
Yeah, it all comes down to like shrug Aes Sedai bullshit. Like it just.
It's actually a chapter name, I think.
Fucked up organization.
Yeah.
That'd be
the whole Black Aja exists
title.
because they're too so set on not revealing to the world that there is a Black Aja that like they can't just hunt down their own Black Aja and be like, oh, that shit was eradicated. Like Don was saying.
It's funny given the context and the actual like seriousness we've given this when you think about what happens later on with, I think it's like in book 7 or 8, maybe 9, with Sarian and others that go to the White Tower like with the botched mission from the Saladar. They get there and like within like 2 weeks they accidentally find out who is an agent of the Saladar Aes Sedai, and then they find out like the entire Black Aja just kind of like, oh, that was really goddamn easy. All we need was one person who didn't want to lie, and next thing you know,
it actually didn't take that long, all things considered.
It's like, wait a minute.
But all of that came from like what had been culminating to that point, though. It's not like
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, the consequences or the context there is so radically different, presumably, than normalcy for at least the last couple of decades. Well, maybe at least 900 years. Anyway, so should we first find?
Yeah. What else happens in this chapter?
I mean, we're hitting the big points. Jono,
there's a really good moment that I wanted to bring up where she and Lan are talking about like basically their life for the last 20 years. And she asks him, do you ever dream of something different, Lan? And Lon, sorry, oh my God.
No, we'll
never not here.
We are not Team Lon, let's be real.
No. Horrible.
And he basically says like, yes, but dreams are dreams and the sword life is reality. And it always strikes me as this very like in the trenches moment. We have these two people that have been just like working tirelessly for like 20 fucking years. And now it's in front of them. And they're just like, holy shit, this is happening. And it sucks. And like, you know, so many small factors could have led to their lives going different ways. Like literally if Moiraine hadn't been serving tea 20 years ago, like their lives would be completely different. And like, I know that like I have these kinds of moments, like I work in a restaurant in the middle of a pandemic. Like, I have these kind of moments with my coworkers where we just look at each other and we're like, what the fuck is happening to us? Like, I can't imagine like a 20-year quest. And they reference in this chapter, like the times that Lan like ran a horse to death and then almost ran himself to death trying to get Moiraine healed and shit like that. Like the shit that they have gone through awesome. To get to this moment is so incredible. And that, and also
now they're
at the same time,
apart.
And then also this time you have Moiraine
I don't know that they're falling apart.
Just like when you're on a long road trip and like the last 30 minutes, you just can't fucking take it anymore. You're snapping.
It's like, I need to get out of this fucking car.
Yeah.
If you play that song one more time, I'm going to lose my mind.
I mean, she even says like this is the first time she's ever felt jealous of a woman in regards to Lan.
I saw
and Lan
10 fucking years ago on our other podcasts about these chapters. But I mean, she just needs to know that he's on her side. Like, if he has somebody, like, if he hesitates, like he did with Agenor and Balthamar, for instance, like, if he hesitates, it's like, she could die, and then it would fuck everything up, like, kind of thing. Like, so, like, she's just, again, doing it Moiraine style. She's, like, fucking with him to get to what she wants to know. But at the same time,
bitch.
Yeah. But at the same time, she's like probing him in certain ways to make sure that like
rectal,
he's still like on her side. Yeah, rectally,
she's still being like passive aggressive after 20 years.
Well,
in her own special way that we love her for. But like, my other takeaway from this chapter is. We learned that the Red Aja rarely find more than one man channeling a year. What the fuck do they do all day? Like, they're the biggest Aja. There's hundreds of them.
Not a year, like ever, like in a lifetime.
What do they do all day?
So there's
Vandine says something like, there's been 2 in a year, and there's never been 2 in a year in my entire lifetime.
Something.
Yeah, like in like kind of thing.
I don't know how you find them until they start doing it.
Also, like, what are the Red Aja in the tower
are
doing?
They out hunting?
Especially.
Do they travel to town to town? Is the Red Aja just constantly traveling to other small towns and just going like,
why are
anything weird going on here, boys?
They should be like that, right? They should be like a weird police force almost.
Yeah.
Like, should never be in the tower. Like, the Browns should never be out of the library. Like, what are you doing?
Well, it's the kind of thing. It's the kind of thing I brought up in the end of the last book. We were talking about the Aes Sedai, and I was just like, what the fuck do the Green, like, why are the dudes that go out to the Blight every year, like Tarwin's Gap style, like praying that Moiraine will come help them? They should have like 6 Aes Sedai with them helping them.
Why aren't the Green Aja up there?
Why aren't the Green just always hanging out in the Borderlands and they just cycle out? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Like,
now that we're bringing it up,
Aja, like, what are you doing all day?
Now that we've brought it up, why are any of them ever in the tower? What's the point?
Yeah, and like, and I mean, on the opposite side of the Greens, I was like, why aren't the Yellows running? Or Tom, I think, even said this. Like, why aren't the Yellows running hospitals? Like, why aren't, like, like, so on and so on.
The Whites and the Browns, cool. You can hang out in the tower because that's where the libraries are.
Sure.
Why are the Greys there? Like, you can't mediate if you ain't got nobody to mediate for.
I know.
Yeah, why would the Queen of Andor have a red advisor? Like,
you find out about
asking for the most biased opinion on the planet. I'll take one end of the spectrum versus the other end of the spectrum. Just get a gray or a blue. Like, what? Like, why are the red?
Why would anyone not have a gray? Like, why everyone should have a gray?
Yeah,
if you're in the tower and you find out a war's about to go down at the other side of the world, and like, we better send a gray, and like, how long is it going to take her to get there? And like, I don't know, like 4 weeks.
Yeah,
should just already be there.
Again, like you said, it takes 28 days to get there. It takes 28 days to get out there. Like, all right, so it has been 56 months. You fucking insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think there's a lot of things that she's asking Vandine about in terms of research, and they talk about the Horn, they talk about the Watchers on the Waves,
rapid fire.
The one thing that I think is kind of interesting is that she asks about Shadow Logoth, and would a Fade take the dagger from Shadow Logoth? And I think obviously she's getting at like, why the fuck did they take that dagger? It had to be Fade. Like, it had to be Fade. And like, I think she's kind of getting close, or maybe like she knows or has suspicions, but she doesn't want to reveal anything to Vandine maybe or anything. But I just thought that was like a really interesting little note of like, what she's researching, and Vandine's giving her answers, and Vandine's like, why are you asking about that? You know that's ridiculous. And Moiraine's like, no reason. Go ahead, Jono.
So, as you know, I've got 5 things that I actually think are relevant. First off,
all right,
go ahead,
quickly.
All right, so she brings up, the fact that she's handing off the bond to Myrelle, which is a green, and not only is she bringing up to do that, but she's also going to be handing her off again. First off, Myrelle, as we know,
handing Lan off. You mean?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
To Nynaeve,
well,
very obvious,
said, but obvious. Yeah.
Yes, he's gobsmacked about it. So
Myrelle is famous for having fucked her warders back to life, which is a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. And I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that we didn't really learn more about that.
Does he know that now?
I'm sure he does.
I feel like the whole tower is all gossip about Myrelle fucking her warders.
All they do is gossip. They have nothing else to do.
Also, there's probably a warder change room.
We just discussed how inept they are at their jobs.
He sees all the scratch marks on their backs.
Yeah, Steph is right. Yeah, Steph's right. So obviously this is never done, especially never twice to some guy. Talk about just being passed around. Weird cock.
Yeah, but how? So he doesn't put it together that it's Nynaeve, right?
It's so weird, right? Well,
how do you know? Is it not obvious? Does he think Moiraine's just evil?
I can't tell if he.
I don't think he does.
Realizes it's meant to be her, or he's so gobsmacked about it.
Yeah,
and
maybe he's angry
because he thought he was being a smoother criminal about his feelings for her.
Maybe. Yeah.
He might have thought that Moiraine was purposely moving him around to keep him away from Nynaeve, maybe.
I think that's what it is, honestly.
In fairness,
I don't think he thought it was Nynaeve that she was intending. I think in Moiraine's brain, she's like, Myrelle, because she'll keep him alive, and then Nynaeve, obviously, because he's clearly in love with Nynaeve, and I'll be dead, so who gives a fuck? But in his brain, he's like, she's fucking with me more. I don't think he's going
But think about this. We know that Myrelle's actual tactic is just eating this guy's ass until he stays alive. So, if he's in love with Nynaeve...
Wait, we know that?
Yeah, it says that.
Yeah, that's how it happens, Tom. She says it later.
Yeah. I don't know that it got that specific.
Weren't 2 of her other warders previously other people's warders?
Yeah, they were all had their asses too.
Yeah, and they all have bleached
Morelle's
assholes.
first rodeo.
Yeah, she's been eating ass for a long time. Good girl. Also, probably needs to get the mouth checked out. But
is this what they do at puppy rescues?
Yeah, they bleach the assholes first.
Do you think before they ever fucked for the first time, Nynaeve healed Lan just to make sure he didn't have any STDs?
I love that idea, and there's so many questions that now come up. Yeah, but anyway, so Lan's probably just kind of love of my life. I'm about to have to fuck some chick for, because usually, accepted in novice training takes 5-7 years at least. Mm. So he's I don't know, but Moiraine's clearly intending to die. So I've got 5 to 7 years of fucking some chick I'm not into before I get to my wife, or the light wife I would like to have.
Future wife, Mashiara.
This is thank you. Well done with your old tongue. No offense. And it's just kind of this is not going to be well received, Maybe that was
Tom said quickly.
Maybe his issue is so I got to go fuck the chick for several years before I go see the chick I want to fuck. Odds are that door's closed by the time I get to the second girl.
Oh, fair enough.
The idea that Nynaeve is in the tower for less than a year, basically, before she becomes full Aes Sedai, that's mind blowing. I mean, that's
that is never reference. That is it's so far in the future.
He would have no sense that is even a possibility.
Yeah,
right.
On a similar.
So Drakkar tech, and that's it.
Yeah, before we get there. All right,
no, not before we get there. That's it. Drakkar.
It was warded. Black Aja.
There's a joke about how many times Lan has fucked different women, and Moiraine gets jealous about it.
Well, the time she got jealous was 0.
Moving on.
Yeah. He gets his dick wet on the reg, and usually she don't care.
Apparently, he's an incredibly handsome man.
Yeah,
no, he's not.
I mean, let's be real. Look at Daniel.
Have you seen Daniel Henney?
Henny?
Yes. Haney?
Daniel Radcliffe. You're thinking Daniel Radcliffe.
I mean,
Harry Potter.
Extremely fuckable, Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Right.
He's made of stony planes and angles.
Yes.
Anyway, Drakkar attack, and Moraine thinks she's going to die, and then Lan comes out of nowhere with that other Order guy, which I figured out later on by listening to our other podcast and not the actual book, that his name is Jaime.
Jaime.
Yeah.
And they barely survive, and then Moraine's like, okay, see you guys later. Also, can you mail this for me?
Okay, bye.
Yeah. That's the end of the chapter.
Yeah.
Perfect. End of the chapter.
And then I think when we see her again, she knows how to use balefire. So I feel like that's like a weird thing. That's a weird thing where like she just pops up again and she's like, I read a book and now I know how to do this.
She's reading a book. She's reading a book, and it's just like diagrams of.
Yeah. I'm reading The Dragon Reborn right now, and Nynaeve uses balefire for the first time after literally only ever hearing it mentioned by the Maidens of the Spear, and then the next chapter she uses it.
Well, in this
no idea
next
what it is or ever having seen it before.
Example of how awesome Nynaeve is and how powerful she is. So let's talk about it. Chapter 23, the testing. Nynaeve.
The testing.
This is the chapter that I requested from you guys.
That is correct. Also, you want to tell us more about why that is?
It is one of the best chapters. It's a great chapter because A, it's a Nynaeve chapter, so it's always going to be awesome. And B, it's a juicy, dense chapter. There's so many details here. True. And I mean, in Egwene's Accepted Test later, we also get a lot of details, but like, there's so much good shit in these like kind of pseudo future vision kind of chapters, and there's lots of foreshadowing, and there's lots of things that do come to pass but don't, and I love it, and you get such a good window into people's characters. So this is, these are some of my favorite chapters in all the series. Is anytime you get somebody doing a weird thing with a ter'angreal and learning some shit about themselves, and also
fair point. Yeah. All right, go for it.
So yeah, Nynaeve test for the Accepted. She does 3 tests. She faced her fears. Once for what was, once for what is, and once for what is yet to come, I think. And like all good white terror ceremonies, it's done nude. And she crushes it, basically. And also, being Nynaeve does it in a way that is unexpected and totally rad.
Love it.
I'm blown away at your Tom style of recapping a chapter.
I've listened to you guys a lot.
That's a big mistake.
Yeah, but we're not insisting that you do it the way Tom does it. You do it how you want to do it.
Here's the thing: is like I have no middle ground. So either I'm going to do it like Tom style, or I'm going to read the 3 pages of notes that I read.
You're right. This is probably better. You're right. So in terms of the show, this is very much more like what our viewers are used to.
Jono's got physical notes. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's one page. This is
I would do that, except I am an extreme millennial and my hand cramps if I write more than a paragraph of text these days.
That is an extreme millennial if I've ever heard one.
Mm-hmm.
I can barely read my writing half the time, but it's legitimate. I cannot read my writing.
Jono, why don't you deep dive into this chapter?
Yeah.
All right. So again, I'm always fascinated, and the answer starts off that sentence going, God damn it. But I'm always fascinated by what was the original purpose of this fucking ter'angreal.
Okay, I actually wrote in my notes, what do you guys think the original purpose of the ter'angreal was?
It's an interesting question. Yeah, I mean, like you said, what it does is it brings your biggest fears out, and you kind of either it's something that's a proving ground for someone's mental fortitude, or a punishment for someone who's fucked up. They have mischaracterized the oath rod to be a punishment for people who deserve to have their life halved. Really,
it matters if you think it might be real.
Yeah.
So I think that it was basically like True Source VR. And I think because we know that the Aes Sedai who are using it, they are using the source and they're channeling into it somehow, and to bring about, which I think is sort of their desired results or something. But like, yeah, I mean, I think it's basically like True Source VR. Like, you go
but VR in the sense of like it's just a VR machine, or is there a purpose to the game that they're playing? You know what I mean? Like, I get what you're saying is the basis of it, but like,
I think it's the idea that you would go in there and have an immersive experience which would not necessarily affect you physically. But like, I mean, it obviously seems to use some sort of like dream shard, Tel'aran'rhiod something.
Is it real?
But I don't think it's real, but it's so interesting.
I don't think it's real either.
It does.
I don't either, because it seems to. It's
not 10 years ago. You said like maybe this is a mirror, like a portal stone world that like that's where something else happened, kind of thing. And then Tom kind of says something along the lines of, "But what happens to Neve in that world when she jumps into her body?"
It references
like, is it quantum leap or is it like? Or does she like fuck off and leave?
The users have no way of knowing. Like, so like more like in Egwene's accepted test, she references the Great Purge, which we know is a thing that happened in this version of the world. But there's no way that she could have known about that. So it is like, it is this weird, like, and the only just like way I can like think about it is like Tel'aran'rhiod kind of touches all possibilities, and so maybe that's why.
I agree with that.
Like, because there's one world of dreams.
I think Tel'aran'rhiod is kind of like the there's a DC Comics universe terminology in terms when they have the multiverse. They have a thing called the bleed, which is like space between universes.
Yeah.
So I kind of think of Tel'aran'rhiod in that respect, like physically, like to make it make sense in my brain. But it's like if there's portal stone worlds and there's like splinters of the pattern of like and
dream
hazy
if
it's like, and it's hazy if it's less possible, and it's more solid if it's more possible, so on and so on and so on. The shit between, I feel like Tel'aran'rhiod would still embody, like would be able to go through all. And we kind of touched on that a couple chapters ago, because Ishmael visited Rand's dream in the portal stone worlds. So I was kind of like, well, maybe Tel'aran'rhiod just kind of touches all all the realities.
It does.
And it seems that way, right?
That kind of works for me. I like that.
Because what does it say? Like, I think even in Varen, I think describes Tel'aran'rhiod. You know, she describes the pattern. As here as like one hand, and Tel'aran'rhiod sits beneath it. But then she also describes the parallel worlds as being like almost perpendicular to the pattern.
I think that's later in this book, I think.
Right? Yeah. Oh yeah, it hasn't happened yet because
she hasn't gotten the ring yet.
Yes.
She being the queen. But no, I mean, I think that's exactly the point. Like as Steph's going for is the fact that Tel'aran'rhiod touches every reality. Mm-hmm. Even if it seems...
Well, there's your answer right there. I mean, like, Steph helped us out. She made us jog our memory from later in this book. I
am not the first person to make that statement.
No, I know, but I mean, like, we tend to focus on what we're reading at the time and only vaguely reference shit to the future.
Well, and honestly, like, part of why I'm up on this right now is because I'm also currently rereading Dragon Reborn.
Yeah, you're also in the Dragon Reborn,
and I just hit Egwene's test. Yeah. So anyway, it's so interesting to me the way this terrain rail works, and like the idea that like it touches things that do truly happen and are real, but it's nothing that happens in any of the fear futures or the fear scenarios that we see actually happen, but elements of them do happen. And I find it so interesting because
before she gets into
but not
into the arches, I wrote, I want to stab Sheriam in the throat every time I reread these books. I hate her so much.
Man,
I don't know why I hate Sheriam more than like other dark friends, but like
is it because you trusted her and she failed you?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Weirdly, I just feel bad for her.
Yeah, I also hate Leandrin too. But it's like one of for some reason every time I'm like, you fucking bitch, like I fucking hate Sheriam.
Leandrin's very hateable, but like Sheriam is like she got power hungry for 10 minutes 20 years ago and has lived the rest of her life in fear and got her fingers cut off.
It's a very quasi-sympathetic character.
I know, I understand that, and that's kind of.
Do you?
But for some reason, I just like the level of betrayal from her. For some reason, is deeper than
Shades of Grey.
Yeah, no,
it's dumb. Black or not.
No, I disagree. No, I agree with you because for one specific reason, I was going to say I don't know if I said it in this chapter, or maybe the next one, but like she kind of, I think it's just later. It's when Nynaeve pops out of one of the arches. I don't remember what it is, but she says something like, we don't like, whatever. What does she say?
You're talking about when she says, I hate Aes Sedai?
No. Let me see here.
Because the first one she pops out and she was like, I channeled. It was so easy. And they're like, don't fucking do that. That's a
it's right here. It's before Arch 1. She says, I just wrote Sheriam hypocritically talks about the oaths. And essentially what I'm saying is it's the way she's talking about the oath rod and like how important fucked up their relationship with the other with the nations, and how it's like dwindled the might of the one tower or the White Tower and blah 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 blah. She kind of just really quickly alludes to the fact that like it's very similar to the way Ingtar was like, we're all just fucking washing away in the wind, man. Like, I don't know what's going on. And it's very and I guess I didn't realize how connected those were. And I was
that's true.
They're very maybe their reasoning between being dark friends is very similar. And Ingtar is a very sympathetic dark friend.
Yeah.
So on Jono's note of like, well, maybe you're wrong and maybe you're an asshole. I'm like, maybe you're right. Maybe Sheriam is sympathetic and she's more like Ingtar than I'm giving her credit for.
I will say like it seems like it's a very like being a dark friend is like it's very easy to get into and really hard to get out of.
Yeah,
you have these people like.
So I think people have like weak moments. Yeah, and they're like,
they have a weak moment.
We're all fucked, man. Like the dark one's gonna win any way we do it. And then that's just like, and then they have you, and then you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you effectively like sell your soul to the dark one, and then he's like, hold tight and do my dirty work for. How long? Like 3,000 years of dark friends lived and died.
I've got something to say, but Tom was trying to say something too.
Okay.
No, I was actually just amazed that you didn't say anything when she said it's very easy to get into, but very hard to get out of.
I've got so many.
And you just sat there quietly.
I did.
Real tight.
Also, Joe, when you add the word man to anything that Ingtar's saying, all of a sudden I was just like, oh, he is a sympathetic villain. He's like Patrick Swayze from Point Break.
Yeah.
Guys, do you think that the boar is a sex position in the Wheel of Time world?
Absolutely. They call it the gate 100%. In our world.
Yeah. Like, hey, baby, you want a Shia Ghul tonight?
That's where you take a tropical paradise and you burn the fuck out of it.
Yeah. And you create a mountain out of it?
Yeah. What did you do? I read It's one of those, Joe.
It's getting so good.
It's a prolapse anus. That's what it is. I think that's really what Shia Ghul is. It's a prolapsed,
It's the world's prolapsed anus.
Yeah, and that's just kind of like... It is
described as a mountain in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so, just kind of everything's technically sloping down, and all of a sudden, whoa, what the fuck happened there?
You know what? No, sorry. Because in A Memory of Light, we learned that there's like this really narrow valley leading up to it.
Yeah.
Shia Ghul is literally the ass crack of the world.
And a prolapsed anus is what the actual
All right, moving on, idiot.
A lot slower.
I didn't know I had two Jonos on this episode.
So, real quick, coming back to it.
Anyways, Nynaeve facing her fears.
I had forgotten, by the way, that the Oath Rod was not used by Aes Sedai until the Trolloc Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, Sheriam talks about how basically after the Trolloc Wars, and I'm assuming it's because there were so many Dreadlords in the Trolloc Wars.
Well, it may have been, though.
Yeah,
it may also have been a fallout from Tetsuan, who was the person who betrayed.
Right. No, wait, wasn't Tetsuan? Tetsuan was Arthur Hawkwing era, wasn't she?
No, that's Bonwyn.
Bonwyn, thank you. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, both red.
Thank you,
I got two Branajas.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, so Tetsuan was the one who betrayed Elande, whatever, the queen of Manetheren because of jealousy.
Elian.
There we go. Elisandre.
No, not Melisandre. That's Game of Thrones. Fuck.
That's different, yeah. So that's what that happened with. So
I think that's where you start to see this beginning of like the kind of weirdly insular, like
politics.
after the Trolloc Wars.
But again, how much of
to swear these oaths?
I mean, the Trolloc Wars is Ishmael, so how much of Ishmael popping out trying to fuck with the White Tower is all of this? I mean, connected to?
Let's be real.
A lot. All of it.
Great question.
Yeah, but also I think like the Aes Sedai haven't exactly done themselves any favors in the last 2,000 years.
Does it seem like Sheriam's going out of her way to try to get Nynaeve into the novice book for some reason right here? I feel like she's telling her, like, you can just do this.
Yeah, I think this is more like...
Just do that.
This is normal. Like, this is formality.
No, I think this is...
I don't know. Nynaeve and Egwene both come from Moraine. Sheriam's aware of who they are in connection to the boys because she's Black Aja.
Maybe
is there some reason why Nynaeve being a novice would like help her out? So to speak.
No, I mean, so where's our evidence to the contrary is my question. Yeah. Where's our evidence the idea that, like, because the thing that we see is that Sheriam, despite being a black friend, wow, Jesus.
A black friend. A blend. We call them
Black Aja, is very much going to contour herself to what the actual norms of society are.
Like listening to hip hop?
Yeah, she does. Lightly. Like it's mainly, like some things like
Sheriam posted a black square on her Instagram.
I've lost your entire train of thought because all I'm like,
I get what you're going for here. I do.
Yeah, it was very brief. She had a big E for a bit. Yeah, so but it's very light. Other than that, she just kind of seems to keep going, and just being what a mistress of novices should be.
Yeah, I don't think that Sheriam has a motive to make Nynaeve.
I disagree.
Novice,
I hate her. We all hate her equally.
This is such a weird scenario, right? Like the idea that somebody Tesfer accepted, without understanding literally anything about the tower other than the fact that Aes Sedai are a thing.
There is a power.
The fact that she's just fucking powerful.
And your typical novice spends 10 years in the tower.
I guess you're right. No, you're right. I guarantee. I completely agree. That's 100% her motivation. She's as much as she is a dark friend, she very much likes to take care of the novices. So it's 100% just her being like, if in any reason you don't want to do this, here's how you can get out of it and not have repercussions. Or if you do at this point, what the repercussions will be.
Somewhat expecting Nynaeve to not come out.
Maybe she's as excited to spec Nynaeve's ass as Lan is, and she's just like, she goes straight to accept that I'll never have the chance.
Maybe she's just sexually attracted to Nynaeve.
Or maybe they had an after party after the Dark Friend social, and there was only 5 people. Ishmael was like, also these girls.
She might be like, well, if this bitch don't come out of the Torangriel, it's not the worst thing for me. So
everybody in the Dark Friend social just left, except there's 6 people, and Ishmael's just like, by the way, I'm glad you guys waited around. It's just for you guys.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to think I'm sexist.
Also very important.
Yeah, these girls, I don't like them either.
Okay.
That's fine.
First time she goes through a big spooky maze. Agonor's chasing her. It's kind of rapey.
Agonor's trying to rape her.
She channels the fuck out of him, and she needs to go through the arch before she gets a chance to murder him.
Yeah, it's basically if I don't kill him now, he's going to keep hunting me, but the archway's right there. I guess I got to leave.
Dead, but not. Anyway, she doesn't know that he's not kind of dead. Anyways.
Yeah.
We find out.
Was she instantly afraid in book 1 when he showed up? She's like, oh, this guy wants to rape.
She's Nynaeve. She's never instantly afraid.
But I mean, this is one of her great fears. Could she see it on his face the second he showed up?
She's in terms of this being for what was, it's something that happened to her. I don't know if it's a great fear. He said in that moment, I'm gonna fuck that one. I'm gonna kill that one. I mean, Agonor was just pointing at them and being like, "This is what's gonna happen to you. This is what's gonna happen to you."
It's very much
it's probably just her brain being like, "Oh, fuck that guy."
Yeah, it's her residual trauma of what happened at the Eye of the World.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's of the 3 things she faces, it is truly the less.
So anyway,
I got 2 things to say personally, and they're quick. So first off, I love this chapter so much, and she's such an intriguing and strong-willed character. But her last moments before she jumps in, it still bothers me how much she blames everything on Moraine. for such a strong character, her last words are like,
it's so weird.
Fuck you, Moraine. Even though she admits so many times that
I think it's just like a device she uses to.
It still irritates the fuck out of me.
That's true. Nynaeve is the queen of compartmentalizing.
Yeah, see her rectum. Jesus, like so many things.
Yeah, like I mean, it's a certain amount of character development thing, right? Where like, so the idea that when Moraine comes back and they're in the fucking tent in the fields of Merrilor, and Moraine walks in the door, and Nynaeve hugs her, like that's a big moment. And it's
but she needed like 3 years of growth to be.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so like her. I mean, she wouldn't be the first mid-20s person who really fixated on one shitty thing that made her feel she felt led her down this path. We all been there.
All right. Is it real? No one knows.
No.
It's not. I don't think it's real.
It's not real,
this is what Nynaeve says to Sheriam, dummies.
I'm sorry.
And then she goes, you're not supposed to channel in there. And then she goes, 2 went in there and got burnt out. The 3rd one in unprotected and she came out fine. Arch number 2. Go.
Well, I think that there's a great question, though, that I think that Steph wasn't going to ask, because why would you?
Damn it, Jono.
What sex things was Agonor saying to her that she only heard half of it and was both completely disgusted and wanted to run faster?
He was obviously talking about doing the boar with her. Arch did.
Yeah, we did discuss it.
And like he knows the boar. He was there for the boar.
He wants to turn her ass into Shia Gold.
I mean, if Lan offered Nynaeve the boar, she'd be down.
What do you do if a man says, "I'm going to turn your ass into Shia Ghul in the Wheel of Time"?
It depends. Are we at Jordan Con or not?
Is this a good or bad thing? I don't know.
Part 2. Let's go, John.
Okay.
Field of water.
I want to real quick. When we're talking about what is real, no,
are you Jonoing me right now, Kingston?
Yes, she fucking is. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it, Steph.
Look, you guys.
The second you said real
show
quick, Jono's smile just lit up like, oh my god, she is Jonoing Joe right now.
Arch.
I will say I definitely identify with Jono the most because I like to think that I know a lot of the details of the show. But then at the beginning of this episode, I was like, bitch, there's only 2 Moraine chapters. So.
That's true. You did say that.
Yeah, I did fuck up immediately.
All right, Jono, Arch 2, go.
So this one's almost like, I don't even know what the fuck to say about it. When she just kind of gets to the 2 rivers and finds out that, a bunch of people have been dying, and like, it's both tragic and also just kind of like, it's the best version I think we've ever seen of this is that Ghost of Christmas Past movie with Matthew McConaughey. I think Tom would endorse that.
Agreed.
Version of this.
Yeah. That this is we got the Ghost.
Would we say that?
In the future. What was the name of that movie, Tom?
Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
Nailed it. It was written by Charles Dickens.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what really this is. And if they don't use McConaughey to play Sin Bowie here, it's gonna be very disappointing.
McConaughey would have to be in an A.
Oh yeah, he's got the hair.
He likes all flavors.
I don't have anything to talk about specifically in this one, other than that we all recognize that it's kind of
it's just her being sad that she doesn't feel like she's taking care of her people.
I do have a pet theory for this.
Go
on.
So my pet theory for this is that it's tapping into a sort of sub-fear, in that Nynaeve subtly fears how she was viewed as the wisdom.
Oh, very good question.
As somebody who beats people up and, is mean and nasty and shitty to get her way. I think that the character of Melina is born out of what she subtly thought people thought of her as the wisdom.
So she was killing them. Yeah.
Not so much the murder part.
Not the murder part, but it's extrapolation of that. But I understand what you're saying. It kind of goes back to what we were saying 10 years ago when we were trying to figure out if it was real or not. And Tom was like, proof it's not real. And I don't remember when he said that exactly, but it was something along these lines.
There is reality to all of these, but none of them are real.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it could be another dimension.
That is true.
If they gender swap Nene for the TV show, but playing her was Matthew McConaughey, would you be okay with that?
Yes, hands down. Especially when Matthew McConaughey and Daniel Haney make sweet, sweet love.
Oh God! So and you know what? And because it's Amazon, it's gonna be graphic.
It's gonna be so fucking hot.
Yes.
If you kill someone before you take the accepted test, they wash you clean as your past sins. You good to go? Like, I mean,
yeah, it's like a priest absolving you of your sins.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a baptism.
It's like being Catholic.
This reminds me a lot of what, and I think Nynaeve takes this and finds it kind of a visceral recognition, because she uses this for all our fucking hangover cures for everyone else. Is just forcing water on everyone.
Very sobering.
And great fennel.
She confuses mentally sobering with physically sobering.
You think she was hungover when she took this test? She's like, that really.
I was going to say, do you guys think Nynaeve has ever been drunk in her entire life?
No. Also, so the key to this little section is that the first time she channeled, she wasn't supposed to channel. This time she remembers that it's not real, and that's what gives her the strength to leave.
Yeah. So
and then she leaves.
We find super interesting in both Nynaeve and Egwene's accepted test is they understand that it is not real, and they recognize the world of dreaminess of it all, which I think we are led to understand that most people do not. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, they're very strong-willed people, and so maybe that's why. And it's hard to tell because we don't have a lot of other sources telling us what they envisioned. So is it because, they're strong-willed people and they are able to sort of break that reality, fourth wall level? Or is it because, the fourth age is coming around and old things become new, and so they are able to see things in a way that they just wouldn't be able to if they had maybe been born.
I think it's a little bit of a combination, but also I want to note that their power level is extraordinarily high. And
yes,
I feel like maybe they're the people that have been using this for X amount of years since aren't on their level. And going back to what the fuck did they use this for before? Yeah. Not this, kind of thing. So maybe it's just the fact that Nynaeve can fucking spoilers for Arch 3, summon the arch back open after it's closed. Anyway,
pure fucking will.
Yeah. I almost on that note, we can get to Arch 3 if you guys have any more thoughts.
I almost wish we had gotten to see Elaine's test, because I feel like it would have been an interesting counterpoint.
Yeah.
But also, Elaine is also special in her own way too. So I don't know if really
she's extra strong. So there's that, but also how much? I wonder I don't know. Doesn't she talk about it with Egwene afterwards and go kind of compare notes and be like, I saw Rand and he was my husband or something like that? She
cries. Yeah. Elaine cries into Nynaeve's lap, basically being like, "Oh, I couldn't be that terrible, am I?" I think Elaine's whole test was you're a bitch.
Oh, she is. Oh, okay, got it.
Because she was, and will be a bitch.
Yeah, I think in Elaine's third arch, she gets back to the palace after a long day out, and she wants to take a bath, and there's no bathtubs.
No.
She's gotta light the fire to boil the water herself, like a fucking peasant.
It's fucking disgusting.
Peasantine bitches.
Terrible.
Very upsetting.
Yeah.
All right.
Third. Okay, I will say the second is the second vision here is the most crushing for me. The third is it's kind of sad, but it's it's not as upsetting.
Yeah, it's not. The second one is the more upsetting one.
It's
the third one's not that upsetting. It's still within reach.
The third is the closest to reality, which is weird.
Yeah, you're right.
But she can still have that.
As Steph wanted me to do, I want to go real quick back to second one.
I'll murder you.
Because let's be honest, to your point, Joe, how many times have we seen the fact that, there's all these miracle cures with Nynaeve, there's all these things. She doses people who are lying. I think that she is, in fact, like you said, this fucking Melina bitch. I think that that's the overriding point. I kept wanting to say it, but I didn't want to interrupt anyone else until now. Back to
there is a part of Nynaeve that fears she was or could have been Melina. Not so much the murder parts of it, but like the idea that like everybody was afraid of her.
There's a part of
what's
me
that
that's
called
afraid
where you
Joe
take care of people,
back.
but you get them sick so you can keep taking care of them? What's that called?
Munchausen's?
Munchausen's
by proxy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, Munchausen by proxy.
Yeah. I could see actually Nynaeve, let's be real, if like she had succumbed to a bit of the channeler sickness.
Yeah.
You know, she could have been a Munchausen's by proxy.
She healed herself, and therefore she'll heal Queen.
There's an alternate universe where Nynaeve is a fucking terror.
That's what this is. And she renamed herself Melina or whatever.
Yeah, like she never got her nut off, so she just turned that inward.
Arts 3, what will be?
Because let's be real, like Emmons Field, Nynaeve doesn't know how to masturbate, so...
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
She only knows how to fake jerk off a dick on the side of her head. Arts 3.
Okay, Vision 3. The closest to the actual future we get in one of these visions.
It's peaceful life in a glorious wild garden with Lan who loves her, and they have children, and Malkir's alive, and their 7 towers are rebuilt. And
it's very Harlequin.
Is it Malkir rebuilt, or is it Malkir was never broken?
I think it's rebuilt.
I think it's got to be rebuilt, which again goes back to the point we were talking about. Like this, no offense, lady, it's not impossible for the world to get better.
Yeah. So, there's references to, Lan being like, I was a cold stone until you came along.
And
which in the chapter before we just saw.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
But anyways, there's bits and pieces of this where we know it's not real because like in this, there's like Morghese is still Queen of Andor. And like
the key here is that she realizes what it is right away and wants to leave right away, but the arch doesn't appear, and it like it's almost like the test was like, oh, you get it right away? Fuck you. You're not going to have an archway until you get sucked in, and then I'll give you the archway.
But the craziest thing to me that happens in this episode, wow.
It's an episode of podcast.
It's an episode of podcast. That's how we think about the entire
podcast. First appearance of Sharina.
Yes.
Is a name
that will come back later.
Could not know, and granted, like, we don't know, maybe it's the equivalent of Jane or Jennifer in the Wheel of Time world, but the idea that there is a Sharina Sedai, and then that person comes back later and becomes a relatively important figure, like, that's where you get these weird tinges of this being real.
Yeah.
And
I think that's just Robert Jordan fucking with us.
Or forgetting.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'm sure Robert Jordan didn't forget the name, so I think it's either
it was absolutely intentional for him. But in terms of like the idea that the Sharina that's referenced in Nynaeve's vision,
he did it through written word, and it would take like a really long time for you to understand that you were being bullied.
Yeah, because when did this book? This book came out in like what 1995 or something, like earlier.
No, 90.
And Sharina doesn't appear until probably like 2012.
Yeah.
That's the long con.
Tom's right. He probably just forgot to use that name before. He's like, how about this name?
I know.
Pretty sure we can blame this on
because he had Alan checking that shit for him. So
we all know how competent he is.
He had Maria before that. Yeah.
So, but it's such a weird thing because in book 2 you have this reference, and then I don't know what it is. Probably not until like book 8 or 9.
It's 8 or 9.
Sharina shows up and Nynaeve is fucking weird about it. It's like, if people who only read the series once were probably just like, what the fuck is going on?
I don't know the name, yeah.
But anyways, it's one of those things where like you have these weird brushes with reality, how the world actually ends up, and the idea that Sharina could very much end up being the Aes Sedai advisor to Malkir in the future. Not necessarily this version of Malkir, but a version of Malkir. It's very interesting, and So as you mentioned,
by the way, Jono, wait, real quick, before we talked about Nynaeve's parents recently, and we couldn't remember if she had parents or what the deal was with her.
Not dad. That was the one that was alive, right? Briefly.
Well, all I was going to say is she says Elnor was my mother's name, but she says was.
Yes.
So clearly indicating that her mother is not alive anymore, or
her
not alive in this
died
future.
early, and her dad taught her to likely she was a teen.
Yeah, I think both of her parents are dead, but her dad lived longer. Her dad lived long enough for her to track good enough to fuck a warder. So.
He wished he'd had a boy.
As any father wants his daughter to learn.
And that's where that conversation point was coming from. So good job.
Yeah. So she walks through and all she does is yell, "I hate you." And I love they all say that. You know, like, you're doing your job right when the answer is, oh yeah, they all fucking hate us, right?
I do love that Shiriam is like, yeah, most people come out saying that.
I hate you and I hate all Aes Sedai. It's fucking fantastic.
Oh, it's so good.
When I go being Aes Sedai, I'm living alone.
Yeah, and then she stomps up and down. And she's like, you are in the basement, dummy.
The best thing about Nynaeve is that she comes out saying that shit and then she lives it.
I like how Shiriam's like, everyone says that. And on that note stuff, I literally wrote, yeah, but she means it.
Yeah, she felt that way before. She felt that way before she went.
Like everyone says that when they come out of this testing, but Nynaeve literally meant it before and now and always.
Like Egwene and Elaine, they live that Aes Sedai lifestyle, but Nynaeve's just like, fuck you and
Egwene,
and you.
Goes head first into it.
And also, Nynaeve is the only one we ever see eventually test for Aes Sedai. And then she comes out of that also being like, fuck you and you and you. I'm Aes Sedai. Fuck off.
That's what an Aes Sedai means. Self-love.
Yeah, great.
She would have said that to Shiriam if she bumped into her walking out of like the lunch hall, though.
Oh, yeah. Like she just permanently has one finger in the air.
I hate you and all Aes Sedai. She's like, we get it.
She just went to the cafeteria and she walks out the door and she's like, I hate you and you. And you too. And also, fuck you. There is no gang. I'm out too.
Yeah.
So last thing here, Nynaeve's shiver had nothing to do with being naked and wet.
Sure.
It's a good way to end it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
It is a good way to end it.
It's Egwene's first day at White Tower High.
So
that's a fantastic way of putting it.
This is my summation of the chapter. It's Egwene's first day at White Tower High, and this is the high school chapter because we meet. She's the new girl, and we meet all the cool kids at White Tower High, like Elaine, who doesn't reveal who she is until later. And also, everybody knows Rand, and they're asking about Rand. And she's like, she realizes in this moment that the story about falling into the palace gardens is true. But yeah, like, we meet Elsie Grinwall, Min, Glad, Gawain, Elaine. Like, this is a high school drama
and Aleda and Logan. Like this is very borderline.
Logan.
This is the first time we really see Logan like close up, and he's been gentled, and he's sad as fuck. And then we meet Elida, and as she sucks, as it turns out. Super weird.
Yeah, very upsetting news.
We also learn, we knew a little bit, but we learned, I think, kind of more details about Min's visions. So, like, for example, she sees the rose crown on Elaine, and for some fucking reason, nobody understands what it means when she sees a white flame on a queen.
Yeah, I don't know.
So weird.
It's a cum drop. Weird. It's just a cum shot on Egwene. That's what.
Yeah, and then Egwene immediately wets her novice dress when Galad and Gawain show up.
See?
Galad asks Egwene on a very chaste date of walking around the city. She is on board.
I'm just happy Min's back.
Yeah, and Min's back. I mean, that's a real important takeaway of this chapter.
I find it adorable that you said it's high school, but I wrote, this is the most Hogwarts of all the chapters.
Oh, absolutely. We also learned that there's only like 40 novices and like not even 10 accepted.
And chapters ago, one section ago, we had a come on, Steph.
Yeah. But it was Shiriam said it when they first showed up, but it was reiterated by Elaine in this chapter.
It's also not the only. I was just being a fucker. It just to me just kind of seems. Is that it? Like, I feel like you guys are pretty bad at your job.
I wrote this chapter is called New Friends and Old Enemies, and I wrote New Friends in the beginning of Joe's hatred of Elaine.
I mean...
So, before we even get there, let's start off with a question that, so Nynaeve is already the accepted, right? So
yes,
it was
a real bummed out.
Gwen doing for her. What was Gwen doing for the first several days? Just she was not on the books as a novice, so is she just hanging out in a hotel room?
It sounds like
didn't they just immediately send Nynaeve down into the basement?
No, because Nynaeve says that at first I wanted all these questions answered, and now you're telling me all this shit. So it's been a couple days at least before any of them were even registered.
Well, I think then we're doing a quick back in timey thing because Gwen literally says it's only been a day. And this is the first night, and Elaine says
it's only been a day since what's her name wasn't accepted.
Yeah, because she said she spent a day. Wait, since she got there.
Yeah, so they got there say day 0. It's been at least a couple of days before Nynaeve took the test.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So this is slightly back in time, and this is Gwen going it's day 2. All I did was spend the first day doing chores, and now I want to know when I'm going to learn from Aes Sedai. And Elaine's
they didn't get right off the train and go to the Sorting Hat, Jono. They spent a couple days getting acclimated before they.
Yeah, they were in a motel for a few days.
This was her first day as a novice. It's it doesn't. We don't.
No, she said she had a full day as a novice, and all she did was clean and
several days before that is the question.
No, isn't this her first day? Because it's her first day, she gets half it off.
No, she's already been all day, and she's already said that Nynaeve is already an accepted. It's
just Jono, to answer your question, because you're clearly not hearing anything we're saying. It's just she just filled out a lot of paperwork the first day.
Fair. They had to get her SIN and
she had to get a registration and orientation.
Do you know how hard it is to get a birth certificate in Randland?
She probably had to take a physical.
Wait for that shit to come on a donkey.
Yeah, she had to go to the bookstore and meet Cedric Diggory.
She had to go get her wand.
Yeah, you gotta get your robes.
Yeah, you gotta get an owl from the owl shop.
Her name is Elaine. Big eyes and big ears, and not much else.
Accepted.
So this is obviously she is escorted to the room by her accepted person.
Yeah.
This is the first reference, I believe, to kind of what's going to eventually be Pillow Friends. Is that correct?
Kind of. Not really.
Not really. I mean, I get what you're going for there, but there are better options.
They become best friends so fast.
Yeah, Elaine and Gwen are literally hanging out for 5 minutes, and they're like, it's such a teen girl thing. We're like, let's be friends. I think
that's just an example of Robert Jordan trying to get into the mind of a teenage girl, and he's like, listen, I don't know. I guess they're friends right away.
And it means you know what?
Let's just get to the goddamn point. They're friends right away.
You could be very, very charitable and be like, well, maybe Egwene's such a good judge of character that she realizes that this is a good rich bitch who's good to be friends with, but that ain't it. She was just you're fun and not a total cunt. Let's be friends.
So, I think Steph, one of our favorite things that we've ever been multiply quoted for is Jordan saying that every female character in the Wheel of Time is something a rip off of his wife.
I thought you were going to say Hermione.
Harriet is a wonderful woman, so sure. She contains multitudes, so I can't argue with
Clearly
that,
she does.
Yeah.
She spawned 1,000 women characters.
Yeah. It's maybe a little reductive to say that one woman contains all women, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, well, he did.
He did in 14 books.
I don't think that's what Jono meant.
I was talking about penis and vagina or sex, Joe. Yeah. Sex.
Anyway, so you're from the Two Rivers. Do you know a boy named Randall Thor?
Harriet fucking rules. Elaine sucks. So, yeah.
That's a good point. That's a solid point, Steph.
If any point could ever be made about the Wheel of Time series, I think you could get most
Harriet
people
rules.
on board with the idea that Harriet rules and Elaine sucks.
Agreed. I'm not like right here, like the first two books, I don't have a problem with Elaine. I don't have a problem with Elaine.
Yeah, she's in the first couple of books, I think you have this sense that like, oh, she's innocent and naive and she's learning about the world as somebody who grew up as a princess. But the problem is that it doesn't get better.
Yeah, no, the problem is she continues to just be a cunt. So like, if you're allowed a grace period. And then,
the grace period is 14 books.
The grace period is 0 chapters for me.
Yeah.
Joe, you're going to say something from our previous...
Oh, yeah. I found my original fucking Sherium similar to Inktar note. And I guess I thought it was before. But she says it's from Elaine. So it's from like Elaine talking about Sherium, which is why I guess I didn't realize that it was later on. She says, we've culled the ability out of humanity.
Yeah.
As in, like, the Reds have, like, hunted them. And I think that's what I was trying to allude to. Like the fact that they've diminished the Aes Sedai and the ability to channel has somehow sparked this feeling in Sherium that it's fucking all gonna go to shit and she's not going to be able to do anything about it kind of thing.
That actually makes a lot of sense, and I've never thought about that before, so there you go.
So it wasn't the Oathrod thought, although that was kind of an interesting
we learned later. We learned later, like in Path of Daggers era, that like actually tons of women can channel, and the novelist books could be full if the White Tower actually went and looked for people. But I don't think you're wrong there in the idea that like there are Aes Sedai in the Tower who think that they are the last of their generation and turn to the Dark One because of that.
And Sherium's all like sad that there's only 40 of them and only 8 will probably make it to accept it and so on and so on. And clearly she keeps emphasizing
because as the Mistress of Novices, she
gets in shouting matches to Reds about it, which is the fact that Elaine even knows that is crazy. Yeah, like it. I don't know. It's just like that's. So I was just like, oh well, fuck. Maybe that's how she's like Inktar, in the sense of like. Yeah, it's all fucking over, man. We can't get any.
We're being swept away.
The Dark One's gonna fucking kill us all.
Can you imagine what would happen if like a blue had like this like this is my cause, it creating more potential channeling children, and all this chick did who lived for more than 200 years was fuck every man.
Just go on fuck.
Not the worst idea. Honestly,
it's not the worst idea.
You would have thought there would have been at least
value. That's a valuable cause.
But but also I will say there is that weird 50-50 where it's like, well, yeah, you can fuck a bunch of dudes, but you might produce as many men who can channel as you do women who can channel. And
but also on your note,
the kind of like trade-off there, like, is it worth it to produce 50 Aes Sedai, but maybe 50 male channelers?
The blue befriended a brown who was all about doing his
that just gives more Reds more purpose, though.
Yeah, there we go.
And let's be real, they ain't doing fuck all. So
yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
White Tower High.
Yeah, they meet Min. They see Logain.
Yeah, it's a lot of introduction of characters.
Gawain makes a joke of like, this is so bizarre that we're all like intertwined and ending up in one spot kind of thing.
He makes a joke about Rand being Ta'Veren, and Egwene is like,
the second he says that, Egwene's like, oh fuck, maybe that's why I know all you people.
But up to that point, she's so mad that all of these girls remember Rand.
Yeah, thank you.
Like, it's such an ex-girlfriend thing.
Yes, Steph. Like it's like it's literally like an instant clit measuring thing. Like with Elaine, because at first she's just kind of like, well, who can fucking channel harder? I can.
I love Egwene. Like, she is one of my favorite characters. She's flawed as fuck, and I get that. Like, this member, she was like, she compares Rand to a Trolloc because he hung out with girls other than her.
Horns. She wishes he had horns.
Yes. She's like, well, he might as well have Trolloc horns because he talked to 2 girls other than me.
Meanwhile, like, her instant response is like, I danced with one guy in a very
and to be fair, that's Perrin's judgment, and like,
true. But what did she, like, in fairness to Rand, and Elsie Grinwell, we all know is a giant slut who's going to eventually by the Forsaken.
Yeah.
Rand actually found out she was looking at him, and all he did was creep back and try to.
Yeah.
Here's
the other thing. She traveled to Camelin in the wilderness with 2 people, one being Perrin, and he traveled to Camelin sleeping under hedges and meeting every person along the way. Of course he's met more people.
Yeah.
Not that we let's get one thing straight. Both Rand and Egwene want to fuck every single other person that they meet.
Because they're teenagers.
Yes. Everything's fine here, Egwene. Just because he met 16 people and you met 5 doesn't mean that he's more of a whore.
Ratio is basically the same.
Yeah.
It's
for real, I think.
And then 2 minutes later,
probably
she's
wants to fuck more than Rand.
I want to fuck Galad so bad.
I think that you're actually right, Steph. Yeah.
Egwene wants to fuck.
Yeah.
I love Egwene. She is my favorite character. That girl wants to get down.
And yet does it for so long and clearly needs to.
And when she does it with Gawain, it's so fucking sad. That might be the greatest tragedy in 14 books. It's Egwene dies having only fucked Gawain.
I like to believe that
he just lays there and is like, "Did you come?"
Hold on a minute. She fucks Homema.
This is the shit that Tom tunes back in for.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, Tom. John, do you have anything about these min viewings before we get off on too many more thousands of tangents?
I mean, I'm always happy to do that.
Okay.
First off, real quick, I think that my favorite worst line here is Egwene goes, "Everybody sees things," when Elaine says, "Oh, by the way, men here sees things." She goes, "Everybody sees things." Like, no shit, dumb fuck. You think this was my friend Tom? He has vision. This is my friend Joe. He's got ears. This is my friend Steph. You know what she's got? I don't fucking know. A mouth, maybe. I don't know. She can talk. What do you think she was talking about? She sees things. God, it's the stupidest comment.
Wise men here. Oh, she sees things. Don't we all?
They accept it very quickly.
Yeah.
But I guess also they can summon elemental magic from nothing. So at that point, maybe you're up for anything.
Yeah, but
yes.
Real quick,
they can burn somebody to death in 10 seconds if they want to.
You'd think as the first dreamer in X thousands of years or whatever.
Well, she didn't even know yet.
A little bit of credence.
Not only can she channel, but she has special abilities. You think she'd be a little more open-minded to maybe she can do something that I can't. Or maybe there's something
jealous.
more. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
She's like, I didn't going to fall asleep.
Does Egwene have a sense of Perrin's whole thing at this point, or did she gloss over it?
She knows. She doesn't know about his secondary kind of almost dreamer sense yet.
Well, she witnessed the change in him. So yeah, she has an inkling. She
understands that people can have abilities without being channelers.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah.
That's correct. Also, Steph, a little disappointed you didn't mention our favorite emo character of high school, Logain, just walking.
We mentioned
his
him.
Dripping eyeshadow. Just being
curling hair.
Let's be real. A true emo kid doesn't want to walk in the sunshine.
Yeah.
What are you doing here, Logain?
I think it's Elaine who is "You're not supposed to be here." He's like, "I just wanted to see the outside." She's like, "Fuck you, go die."
Just the pretty girl making fun of the goth kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Thank you.
I will say,
you need to go
it's a good example of how the world views male channelers.
This is where those bourgeois should be fucking him, though. Right? He's no longer a danger.
Right?
Just start, you know what? Just blow this guy. Bring him to life.
I mean, maybe in the fourth age, that's what the Renegade do. They just fuck male channelers to make more.
He should be jerking off into a cup.
Oh, you know what I just realized? do you think menopause affects female channelers in the same rate? Like, do you think after 50 they're done, and then for the next like 350 years they're just like?
We had this conversation at least twice. Probably was edited out, and the answer is I don't know. But we've talked.
I don't think so.
What it looks like.
I think it affects them in like relative time as much as aging.
I like to be optimistic and think that somebody will come up with one power artificial insemination.
To your point, I mean, does the oath rod kind of like make it like a tighter, but kind of more?
We do talk a lot about how the oath rod tightens everything.
Yeah,
it makes you feel like you've been squeezed in saran wrap.
What does that look like? If you're
also I feel like if you channel water enough, you just move it from one place to the other.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Right.
Like so you know what you're doing.
Maybe that's the role of the Redajal.
I like Tom's note that somewhere in the White Tower is a storage room that's like kept cold by like weaves that were tied off. They're just storing Logain sperm.
Oh yeah. I mean, that would be like a crazy Redajal subplot, is like the idea that they had been creating male channelers to then gentle throughout the years. Like, I would not put that
even
past
better,
them,
but it's part of the conspiracy theory.
I like the idea that I like the idea of them capturing Mazrim Tay in a cage and they're taking him somewhere in a wagon. And he's like, well, now what? And they're like, well, jerk off.
Milking it.
Get to work.
Over and just start fucking yelping.
Like, can you imagine
I know our
if
viewers
George R. R. Martin wrote this series?
But they are viewers, but Steph just milked it by doing this, and it was amazing.
Yeah, well, and you made the same hand motions.
That's how you milk.
The listeners also can't see.
Yeah, by definition, all you said was by doing this, and then proceed to do nothing.
No, I know, but they're viewers, Jono.
Well,
that's why Elena wanted.
As we all know, there's viewers of this show.
I mean, they're all viewers. So they can see what I was doing.
Can you imagine if George R. R. Martin wrote the series, though, and there would just be like graphic descriptions of like cock rings of air weaves?
I don't think it'd be cock rings of air. I think it would be prostate milking of air.
Oh, like are you thinking like water weaves or air weaves?
You know what? A combination, maybe a little bit of spirit.
In there somewhere.
Definitely get some spirit up there.
And a little trickle of fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A trickle of fire is what I call my herpes, Joe. Yeah, it would definitely just be dripping out and just be someone like, so what did you do when you were an accepted? Like, oh, I tended the gardens. What about you? Oh, I tended.
Like, just think about it in the future when like the accepted are working between the wise ones and the wind. Fucking.
You just make make a moving air dildo and tie off the weave and then just go to town.
just constantly in and out. Isn't that technically how that warder dies? One of those warders dies.
So you get jacked off by air so hard?
In a way.
From Samara.
Semrich kills that guy with that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Like ecstasy,
she orgasms him to death.
Yeah.
And he bites his tongue and comes and dies.
That is like, honestly, like, Robert Jordan, bless his heart, was not one for sex scenes. That is probably the closest to a sex scene we ever get in this series. And it's extremely fucked up and dark.
Yeah. All right. So, men's visions. Men's vision.
She says a rose crown on Elaine, a white flame on Egwene. That's really the main thing. And then Elena interrogates her, and she's sweating at the end. And
I don't know. Those are obvious ones. I like the fact that she saw the chopped off hand for Elaine. There's little tidbits there. There's more.
Yeah, there's so much foreshadowing in these 3 chapters, actually. Like, I'm very grateful that you guys let me come on for these, because in terms of like foreshadowing chapters for the entire series, these are pretty significant.
I love that we get a men point of view when she's been in the book for like 12 total pages.
Yeah,
that was actually kind of interesting.
She also, by the way, mentions kind of offhand several times, which at this point, how like, oh, it's funny about you sharing a husband, and I'm gonna be sucking your husband's dick while he's fucking.
She's so funny about it. She was just like, I didn't mean to share my man either. Lol, wink.
I mean, she's literally like revealed that she's also going to be one of those women like multiple times and no one's picked up on it.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if she was talking in emojis, it would be just like lol, wink. It's going to be the best.
Says, Elaine, you're going to have to share your husband with 2 men. And then she's like, I would never do that. And he's like, well, I don't want to fall in love with him either. And then, but that doesn't even cross Elaine.
Nobody follows up on that.
All I can think about now is men's visions being emojis. Now that you said that,
just the whole problem is a big like thumbs up floating around Matt. Yeah. And the double eyes emoji.
This is the waving hand, and she's like, I see a decapitated hand over your head. And you're like, that's not what that is at all.
All right, I'm putting this out there now.
Hand waving.
Listeners, when this episode comes out, tweet me or tweet tWoTcast your best emoji, Wheel of Time, like min prediction, whatever. Like, tweet me some
Just
emojis,
start
and I will eat them
all
up.
of men's viewings into emojis.
Yeah, White Tower High, Visions, Elida, Logain. I mean,
let's talk about Elida for a second and Min, and then let's wrap this shit up.
Elida sucks.
And Min.
Well, she sends off Elaine and Egwene, and I just said, like, well, what if... Obviously, she doesn't quite get that Egwene is connected to Rand, or she would have been like, you stay too!
That's true, yeah. It is weird. I guess she immediately connects Min with Moraine because Moraine sent Min there, but, like, I feel like it shows a short-sightedness.
Maybe she just knows that Egwene is like trapped there as a novice, and she's like, I got time for you later.
Because like, and maybe that's it. Like, but you would think that like if she knew that Egwene and Nynaeve were connected to Moraine in any way, that she would question them because they've been with Moraine much more recently than Min. So.
Well, there's also the question of, like, does she know?
How does she know about Min's
talents? Does she know Min's talents?
I feel like it was pure dumb luck.
No, it's not dumb luck. Somehow it got out that Moraine had sent people to help the inn that Min was at, and then like, requested
Tom,
Min to go to the tower.
Like, how did Moraine find out about Min?
No. How did Elida know that Min was sent to the tower by Moraine?
Okay. Yes. No. That's okay. Yes.
It's got to be because of the money. But no, I mean, the question is, though,
if somebody shows up at the tower and they're like, well, Moraine sent me, like, because I feel like Min is not savvy enough at this point to not be like, well, Moraine called for me.
That makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. But
later, she definitely is, but...
Really? I don't think she revealed that at all. I think it was just Elida figuring it out.
Can you imagine?
Like Jono said, follow the money. Like, where did that money come from? Why would that money go to that place? Moraine was there.
That makes sense.
Travel that it takes to get from Barrelon to Tarvalon at this point, like...
Yeah,
that money trail goes back to Moraine.
Like, I can't. Yeah. How does she know?
I agree with Jono's idea of follow the money. I think that's probably how she figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who the fuck knows?
She didn't have Min ride there on a horse by herself. There's an escort or something.
It's not.
Well, and if she did ride there on a horse,
or she arrived with a letter that was like, I said I requested my presence in the White Tower, or something like that.
Yeah, she would have announced it a little bit.
She's just wearing she's wearing her I Heart Moraine shirt.
Yeah. It's just blue.
So you want to talk about Min real quick? I mean, I guess it's just interesting that we get a Min perspective.
This is really the most we see of Min actually after the first chapter where she's introduced, which we really don't actually get that much of her in those pages. 2 Barrelon chapters.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of her in those chapters, though.
There is, but like this, I feel like this is the first time we see Min kind of as her own person. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Yeah.
No, that she's definitely got in the first part in book 1, she's almost like a weird, like, is she a good or bad prophesizer?
Yeah.
She's almost like a soothsayer, like, you're gonna die, Rand.
Yeah.
Kind of like way over the top, like, we'll see each other again. Like, very kind of ominous. Now here she is. Yeah, but what if Rand did get dicks up by 3?
And that's probably true of Elaine too. Like I mean, you guys have covered and most people understand. Like the first book is a skim of everything, and you get into the second book and it's like, okay, we're invested now. Like, so So you have these characters come back, and it's like, well, I know this character, and I vaguely understand this character, but like, I
think we're getting her perspective here is Robert Jordan saying, like, this character is going to be important later. I need to start building her up now. Like that.
Yes.
That's
this is not just a one-off character. This is somebody who is going to matter going forward, and you should pay attention to them and what they see and what they have to say.
Not only that, like, so one note of her little tiny perspective here that I love is that she lied to Elida about not knowing Rand. Just immediately sells herself to the reader as like a badass that can lie to an Aes Sedai. And also endearing her to us in the sense that she kept Rand's secret and like all this shit. And I'm just like, I mean, this might be one of the first times as a reader you're like, fuck you, you're awesome. Like, I love you, man. Not that she wasn't cool before, but like this is kind of one of those moments where you're like, as a reader, you're like, fuck, you're awesome. I fucking love this girl.
Can you think of another character at this point that is actually hiding still for Rand that doesn't? I mean, she's got
that doesn't immediately like
other than Emmons Field people. Land. It's really just land.
It's legitimate. That's a very legitimate point, Joe. That like this is the first character that we see. Like Moiraine would give up anything for Rand if it were to further her goals, which technically would be kind of tantamount to Rand's goals eventually. Like this is the first time really that there is someone who didn't know him until lately that just said, "I will lie. I will work on your behalf."
I think it's the first moment that we all get kind of as a reader going like, oh, fuck, her loyalty to Rand is like beyond question.
And it's almost weird. Immediately. Like just it is weird. And we're like, why is it that way? Like,
well, she's told us 10 times. We're just all too dumb to realize that she's talking about Rand when she says like,
it's such a retrospect thing. And like, I would love to hear a first time reader's experience of these chapters because like, we've all clearly read these chapters multiple times for 10 plus years. Like, we know what happens, but like, I can't remember how I thought when I read these first chapters. Like, how do these people know so much about Rand and care about him? And like, does that mean anything? I don't know. I was 12. Like, my perspective is very off.
Also, we didn't mention it, but fuck, you read books 1 through 9 in the span of a year when you were like 11. That's fucking crazy.
Like, I had that fucking determination that children have. Like, you know, like I was. So the way I got into Wheel of Time is I was on a family vacation, obviously, because I was 11. And my mom went to the local used bookstore. And I was like, my daughter reads books so fucking fast. I need a book that's going to take her a while. So the reader recommended The Eye of the World. And I had that copy of The Eye of the World. I still have it. But I have that copy of The Eye of the World. It fell apart recently, and I bought myself a nice hard copy recover. But anyways, so I was 12, or I was 11, and I started reading Wheel of Time, and I did not get a lot of it, and probably in the first read. But that's the beauty of the Wheel of Time. You can reread and reread and reread, and at 31, I still get things that I don't get.
I started my Wheel of Time at 10 and 11 as well. Like that's
Jono, no one wants to hear about you.
We started reread at
that is the beauty of the Wheel of Time is like you can reread it so many times and at so many different stages in your life and get different things about it. Like I definitely get different things about it now that I'm a grown ass woman and married than I did when I was 11 and had never, been remotely close to a boy ever. So that's the beauty of it. Is like it is beautifully. I don't want to say the word generic because that sounds negative, but.
When you were 11 and you read this scene with Galad where you're like, he must be the hottest man that has ever walked here.
He's so pretty.
Egwene literally doesn't even realize he's holding her hand until she's like, oh, fuck. He's holding my hand. Okay,
so my first Wheel of Time, my first online community ever was a Wheel of Time community. Like, that's the shit that, like, stays with you. Like, shout out Shadowburn forums. If anybody listening to this ever was part of that.
Absolutely not, probably.
No, it was like this weird Canadian fucking Wheel of Time web
absolutely not probably
forum.
Probably.
But it was my first online community. Like Wheel of Time was my first experience and like reaching out to people who knew a thing online that I had nobody in my personal life who understood. And I was like fucking 13. Almost got groomed by a pedophile. Like that kind of shit.
So that's tWoTcast this week. If you have any comments or questions, the best way to find us is on whatever Wheel of Time thing that she was talking about where a pedophile may have picked her up, or also, you guys are sick fucks if you ever fuck with a child. That is serious, and that is the first time I'll say that, and the last time. Listen, wherever. God damn it, I always screw that up. Joe,
literally every time. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can email us, tWoTcast@gmail.com.
You can join us in conversation on our Discord server, which we actually sparingly use now, which beats our previous record of never.
Never. Yeah.
That is permanently linked to the top of our Twitter profile, which is at the top of our Twitter profile.
We're on Patreon more often than we used to be at patreon.com.
It's true.
If you enjoy the show, help us out and give us some of your money.
Subscribe, and it's worth it now.
Enjoy exclusive content only on Patreon.
It's good. If you want to hear them talk about book stuff that they think is being on the show, it is well fucking worth subscribing because it is like getting a full extra episode.
Thank you. As a genuine Patreon subscriber, Steph.
And as somebody who has been listening for 8 years and only subscribed to Patreon in the last, I think, 3 months, like
I don't know, we don't keep track. But thank you for subscribing, Steph.
No, it's excellent content. It's very fun, and it's like I had to withdraw myself from talking about show content this episode because I know you guys are going to talk about it on a bonus episode, and I'm excited to hear about it. So there you go.
It'll all be very bad, just so you know.
I mean, it's very bad, but it's very good.
All right, tWoTcast theme songs, plural now.
Yeah, plural.
Brought to you by Taffy Bennington at Sing with Taffy on Twitter and Anarchy101 on YouTube, and also everyone's favorite musician on Twitter of Time, #Twitter of Time. Androl at Androl Genhold on Twitter and Androl Bard of Time on YouTube also wrote us a new song, which is debuting on this episode.
He a good boy.
I
haven't heard it because it's debuting in this episode.
All right, Steph. At Steph O. Kingston on Twitter.
I am at Steph O. Kingston on Twitter. I also run a Wheel of Time shit posting account at Memes of Time.
And that's you? I didn't know that.
Like weird pictures of feces. What is shit posting?
No, that's it.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Well, I'm all in on that. I wish you guys told me.
It just means of shit.
On top of that, I also am going through the entire Wheel of Time series, and I post a shitty meme for each episode. And up until literally today, it was not spoiler friendly, and I don't think that anybody listening to this has gotten this far without being on board with spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers are fun. Yeah.
As of literally today, because a very sweet man on Twitter of Time asked me, I will be tagging spoilers, #spoiler memes of time. So if you for somehow have gotten this far and don't want to hear spoilers, mute that hashtag. But otherwise, tune in.
You should just pin that to the top of your profile so like people understand. I'll tell you if it's a spoiler or not.
Yeah.
Here's some awesome meme.
It literally happened today. So I will be putting it on our profile. But anyways, tune into @Memes of Time. I tweet a meme for every chapter of the books. I'm about 3/4 of the way through the Direct Reborn right now. Some of my memes are really good, and some of them suck.
Good job.
Otherwise, you can find me at Steph O. Kingston on Twitter, and I have other non-Wheel of Time based podcasts at Love to Hatecast and at SHU Podcast.
Fantastic. Join us next week. for the Wheel of Time, Book 2, The Great Cunt, Part 9, covering chapters 25 through 28. I'm Jono. You listen to Joe.
Keep the change, you filthy animals.
Tom.
Do your math.
Goodbye. Okay.